After going over the manual, there's an appeals form. It's MIS 6025. And this appeals form should be at your school, and what it is if you have a situation where the student wants to be eligible and you know of some sort of hardship, then that student can become eligible even though they do not meet one of the rules we just went over. So it has to be a pretty good hardship. Things like foster care relocation, military orders, those things are considered hardship in FHSA. And so this form here is the process where if you have a student that you feel has a legitimate hardship, but they're ineligible for your sport, you can fill out the hardship. It will get turned into MSAT. MSAT will review the hardship, and then they'll vote on it. If the MSAT principals vote, yes, this is a legitimate hardship, they can make that student eligible. So if you have a student that's not eligible, you can pick up the phone, give me a call, run it by me, I'll let you know if it's legitimate. Transportation is not a hardship. If mama just got a new job and she works down the street closer to your practice and she wants to change, and transportation is not. So it has to be something that's beyond the child's control, and it's truly a hardship. So if you've got one of those, that's the form, and just know that it's available to you. All right. The next page on student eligibility, this is the page that shows you how, and most of y'all probably have already done this because we've been doing this about 5 years now. This is the page on how to log into those courses for the sudden cardiac arrest, the heat-related illness, and the concussion. It's on the National Federation of High School Sports learn.com site. These are the instructions on how to log in and take the course. So let me review the course and who has to take it and when. So every student athlete, to be eligible, has to take all 3 courses. Each course is about 20 to 25 minutes long. All right, you can put all your athletes in one room and put it up on the screen and play it, print out a certificate, flip it over on the back, and have every student sign that they watched it together. So you are allowed to watch it as a group. Also, every coach needs to watch it and print out a certificate, and the coach can do that at home. And you can print out a certificate, and the certificate of the coach, so every coach in here is going to have 3 certificates. One for the heat-related illness course, one for the concussion course, and one for the sudden cardiac arrest course. Those 3 certificates of yours should have your name on them. They should be in the principal's office on file. You have to do this every year. It's the same course. Well, one of them's changed a little bit, but it's the same 3 courses. You're going to take the classes this year, the 3 courses. Next year, you're going to redo them. You have to do it every year. You don't get to roll it over, and you can't say, well, I did that last year. It's a requirement that we do it every year. So for you, you're doing all 3 courses. For every one of your athletes, they're doing all 3 courses. But you don't have to do this until you've made your team. So I know some of y'all have sports where you're going to have 90 kids try out, and you're only going to keep 30. You don't have to take 90 kids through this course. You can have them turn in their paperwork, make sure they have the paperwork before they try out. Once they try out and make the team, once you have your team established, the very first day that y'all get together, you need to sit down and go through and have everybody watch these courses. So all 3 courses need to be done after an athlete makes the team, not when they try out, but after they make the team. And every coach needs to do it every year. Okay, everyone's clear on that? So those are the instructions on that. The next 2 pages are, or the next page front and back, it just goes over the non-traditional students. We went over that earlier, what to do when the kids homeschool or in online school. The page after that It's the student packet that students fill out, their parent permission form for them to play, and their physical for them to play. If y'all will look on the parent permission form and physical, it's required that they have to have this form before they try out. They cannot come try out without the parent permission form and the physical. That's not an option. So you don't take this form after they make the team. They have to have this form to even try out with you. The parent permission form and the physical. If you look on the top of the parent permission form, there's a box that says student athletes must turn in this sports packet at least 24 hours prior to tryouts. This rule was put, or this box was put on this form about 2 years ago because of the principals came up with this idea, because it's there to help you. If you're out there at practice or tryouts and you've got 80 kids out there and they're all coming up wanting to do stuff and you're trying to get organized, you'll have a kid show up that you've never seen before and him hand you a packet. Well, you have no way to verify the information on the packet. What if the kid came from STEM, or the kid came from homeschool, or there are kids at your school but he's new and you never met him? You have to verify the information that's on this form. You don't mean you have to call to verify it, you just need to look it over. They have to have insurance filled out. You don't have to call and verify the insurance, you just need to make sure that something's written there. It can say an insurance company you've never heard of, it doesn't matter. As long as they have something written there, we're honoring the parent's word that they put down they had insurance. If they have no insurance written on the line, they can't try out. And if they don't have any insurance, you can offer them to go to schoolinsurance.com and you can purchase insurance for just the period of your sports season, and you pay for it monthly. I don't have the specs on that, but if you want information on it, I can get it for you. It's the same school insurance we pass out at the beginning of every year for students, you know, these little packets. So this statement about not taking packets 24 hours in advance, it's there to help you. If you know the student and you're at tryouts and he brings you the form and you know him, then you can let him try out. But this is just there to protect you. That way, when someone hands you something, you can go, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to take that form. You have to turn that form in and you can start tryout tomorrow. I need time to go verify the information on your form and make sure you're eligible. And 24 hours should be enough for you to go in the office, make sure they got a good GPA, make sure they're not 17 years old, make sure they've not failed 3 years in a row, you know, things like that. But if you don't know the kid, you can't just take the packet and let him try out. Because if that happens, it could be weeks before you catch anything, and the kid's already made the team, and then we have to go back, and it's embarrassing that way. So always try to verify all your information ahead of time, and that's what this box is for. Is it allows you to say to a parent, no, I don't have to take your form, I'll look at it and you can try it tomorrow. All right. On the physical, it's the same as it's always been. It was, the question was brought up about who can sign a physical, and it's written on here. A licensed chiropractor can, a licensed physician, a certified advanced medical nurse practitioner, all of those are allowed to fill out physicals. The next 2 pages of the student packet, it addresses the concussion, the sudden cardiac arrest, and the heat-related illness. I don't know if y'all have ever looked at it, but these 2 pages coincide with the 3 courses that they have to take every year. So that's what these forms are for, is once they sign these, they're making themselves, they're admitting that they are aware of these 3 issues. All right, on the impact test, it's MIS 5348, it's in your packet. This form has not changed, but it's a requirement that any student that's eligible to play sports in Okaloosa County has to have this form filled out. They don't have to take the impact test. Their parents are allowed to mark, no, I do not want my child to take the impact test. But we have to have this form with the parents saying, no, I don't want it. or the parent has to fill it out and say, yes, I do want it. If they say, yes, I do want it, it's very important that you make sure that we have an impact test for that student. So every student has to have this form marked, yes, I want it, or no, I don't want it. The parent can decline. We only have about 5 to 10 students countywide that decline the baseline test. 99% of them are saying, yes, I want it. If they mark yes, they want it, and we've had this happen every year for the last 3 years, is we've had a student injured, go down, and the parent marked yes. The doctor asked for the baseline test, and the coach didn't give the baseline test. So that's a tough spot to be in. It puts us in a tough spot. It puts your principal in a tough spot where you are taking this packet and you're saying, yes, I've got this athlete's packet, and I see the athlete check, yes, they want the impact test. The impact test is free, and you can take your whole class into a computer lab and give it. Going forward now, and then I even think now you can give the password to a kid, and he can go in the room and take it by himself. But going forward every summer, the Andrews Institute is going to offer a different baseline test, like they've done last year. They're going to do it again this June. It's free, but you've got to get the kids up there, and I know that's not convenient for middle school kids because they can't drive up to wherever they're having it. But this June, the Andrews Institute will have their baseline test offered. If your students take the Andrews Institute baseline test, that counts. So when the parent marks yes, you can just put a note, took the Andrews test on such and such date. Andrews Institute keeps a list of all of their participants, and they can share that with any doctor. So if your student gets hurt, he goes down, the doctor asks for the baseline test, the parent marked yes, the doctor says, can I see the baseline test? All we've got to do is ask the athletic trainer of that school, give them their name. Within 24 hours, that doctor will call your regular general doctor, the one that's asking, and they'll give them the baseline test info. So the Andrews Institute's not keeping it. And the same with impact. We shared that with any doctor that the student wants us to share it with. We just got to have the forms filled out, giving us permission to send it. So this impact baseline form is in every student's packet. And it's important that if the parent marks they want it, that we follow through and make sure that we do that. We don't want to have a situation where somebody gets injured and then we didn't do what we're supposed to do. All right, does anybody have a question on the baseline, the impact baseline test? Everybody's good with that? Okay. We will send out, the Andrews Institute will be here in a little bit, they'll probably touch base with the dates that they'll be at your place. And I think in the past, they've gone to Destin, or, yeah. So they'll give you that information. All right. Y'all know that for the sports that have referees, the two greatest expense for those sports is referees and transportation. For all those that don't have referees, your greatest expense is transportation. So to go over transportation is the director of transportation, Mr. Jay McGinnis. So he's going to go over transportation policy procedures and try to convince some of you, or give you information if you want to drive a school bus. So I'm going to turn it over to Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. I was glad when Mr. Humphrey asked me to come today because it gives me a chance to thank each of you personally, because I'm sure all of you have either used our buses or driven our buses for your activities, and for cooperating with us. This has been a trying year. Obviously, all of you know that with our bus driver shortage, but I just want to thank you personally for cooperating with us and maybe scheduling a few things differently than they would have been as far as your pickup time and things like that. So thank y'all for cooperating with us. The first thing I want to go over this morning, and I think you have a copy of it, is the student activity technical assistance paper for when you take a trip. There's 3 or 4 options here that I just want to make sure everybody's aware of. that when you take a trip, these are the options you have when it comes to your buses or your police vehicles or things like that. The first one there is just simply when you get a bus from us and use one of our drivers. You just simply send in the request to transportation, we provide you with a driver, and then we send the bill back out to the school, charge you for the fuel and the mileage and for the driver's time. So that's the main way that everybody does it, basically. The second one there is if you have a license and you want one of our buses and you're going to drive the trip as the coach or the sponsor or the teacher or whatever the case may be at your school, you simply request the bus and you put your name on the request that you're going to be the driver. There's a place there on the form for that. So that's the second, probably most common way that all activity trips are taken. The third has to do with an in-county drop-off. Many of you call and say, we're going to play softball from Destin to Rutland. But all my parents will be there by the time the game's over and they're gonna bring their kids back home. So I don't need the bus to stay there for 2 hours and have to pay that bill for a 2-hour bus driver. We will allow you to do that, but only because it's in county and if for some reason we need to get to Rutland to pick your team up for an emergency or there's bad weather or whatever may be the case, we've got buses 5 minutes from Rutland. So in county, we can get you a bus within 5 or 10 minutes if there's a problem. So you're not stranded there. And that's my thing is I don't want you to be stranded there if the game gets canceled, inclement weather or anything like that. That's the reason that we don't allow you to do it if you go out of county. Because we don't have buses out of county wherever you may be going to get to you within a few minutes to pick you up, to get you in a safe environment and out of the situation. So many of you ask, well, we want to go to Walton County and we want to have a drop-off. Well, we're not going to let you do that because we don't have buses in Walton County that we can get to you and pick you up in a few minutes if you're from Meigs or Bruner or wherever. You know, it's going to be an hour before we can get a bus over there to you. So that's the reason we do in-county drop-offs only, if for those of you that were wondering that. On the back page there, the next option is transportation of students in privately owned vehicles. You may have a golf team that has 6 players on it. And you're like, well, I don't need a bus for 6 players. You're going to have a parent drive them to the match or something like that. That's okay, as long as you get that parent's license into our office and we run a driver's license check on them, then we will clear them to drive. What we look for is that you can't have more than 3 motor vehicle violations in the past 3 years or a DUI in the last 10 years. And that's basically the same standards that we use for our bus drivers when we hire a bus driver. So you would take Miss Smith's driver's license, give it to your school secretary, whoever does that, contact transportation, give us that information. We would run it through DMV, and then we would call you back or email you back saying, yes, Miss Smith is cleared to go, or no, Miss Smith is not cleared to go. So that's how that works. If you have a parent that wants to drive kids in the car, then you need to get them obviously approved by your principal to make sure they have the right insurance and all that. But then also the second piece is to let us check their license to make sure they have a valid license to drive. Okay, everybody clear on that one? That one happens a lot too. Yes, ma'am.
Do they have to have so much insurance or just like standard full coverage?
I think it's,
Look at the little higher.
There's a certain amount.
yeah, I think there's a certain amount, and it's Russell.
I think it's on the form.
It's on the form, and we've got it for you right here.
And she's got it in her packet. And it says right here.
The very next page.
Next page, I think on the risk management form it shows it, okay? That's a good question. So everybody clear on that one, because that's happening more and more and more. Some of the schools, we have over 200 parents.
But even as a coach, if you're driving students, you're required to have that added insurance that's mentioned on MIS 5186. And, you know, this isn't our form, this is from risk management. And so if you've got a question, ask them. I'm not the expert. But most people are not covering 200,000 per person, 300,000 per incident on your vehicle right now. That's not standard insurance.
So the next one, option 5,
I got a question.
yes.
Are bus drivers, like coaches that drive for the bus, are we covered by the county's insurance
Yes.
if we're driving that bus?
Because you've been trained through our CDL training course and have that certification. Option 5 is if you lease a vehicle. This could refer to charter buses as well, if your team's taking a charter bus, or if you lease a van or a vehicle, and you, the coach, you may not have a CDL, but you're going to drive the cheerleaders to cheerleading camp this summer. And you're going to take 2 vans, and you and the other sponsor are going to drive. You got to get it, send us your driver's license information, let us make sure that you have a clean driving record, and then also give the principal the information so he can clear it through him on the risk management form. So that last option is dealing with leased vehicles when you don't use a school bus. You may be driving them, or you may have a parent that's going to come up and drive the van that you lease. That's one of your parents on the cheerleading squad or whatever. So back to the same thing. We have to get their license to us, and we prefer you get it to us a couple of weeks in advance, just because DMV only sends us out reports once a week. We are linked into the DMV website in our office. Our CDL trainer, Bob Martin, is linked into the DMV website. So he simply puts your driver's information in them and all that, and it'll spit us out back a report, sometimes within a couple of days, sometimes it may be a week, depending on when the last report comes out. So get us your information as soon as you can when you're going to plan for something like this, so we don't want there to be a delay. Wednesdays is the days we usually get our reports. So if you get something into me on Tuesday afternoon, we're not going to get that back, probably. If you get it to us by Thursday, we're not going to get it till the next Wednesday. So there's a lag there. So I don't want y'all to get caught and us not be able to get you approved. If you live in Alabama, for an example, and you want to drive your coach, say you want to drive your football players to a lineman's camp or something, and you live in Florella, and you have an Alabama license. Well, we can't get your license checked. You're going to have to go get that from Alabama and bring that to us. So we don't have any way of getting a license checked in Alabama. I'm just using that as an example that came up a couple of years ago. And the coach was stuck, and he sent us his information. I said, we can't get that from Alabama. We don't have any way of doing that. So if you are in that situation and want to drive, you're going to have to get your own driver's license checked from a DMV in Alabama or wherever and bring it to us. So that may come up. I just want y'all to be aware of that. The last thing there is risk management does have that form on the next page that you'll be able to fill out, and it has the insurance on there. If you want to get your CDL license, we would welcome you to do that. We will provide the training for free. I'm not going to charge the schools if they want to send me a teacher or a coach, or and you don't have to be a teacher or a coach at the school. If you have a parent that is getting a supplement for coaching volleyball or baseball, as long as they're getting a supplement from that school, I consider them an employee at that school, and I'll train them and give them a CDL license. It's 44 hours of training. That's a state requirement. It's 20 in the classroom doing videos, book work, and then it's 20 actually out there on the bus driving with one of our trainers. Then we will also give you the CDL test at the end of that to certify you. So we provide that to all the schools that want it for their employees. It helps us as much as it helps you guys. So I welcome any of you to do that, if you want to do that. With our driver shortage the way it is now, and I know y'all think we've been saying we've been short of drivers for 20 years. Well, we're short of drivers now more than we've ever been, and it's almost to a critical point. Well, it is to a critical point. I've got mechanics driving and secretaries driving and route coordinators driving, and anybody that I've got that I've hired that has a CDL, well, we've got them out there driving almost on any given day. So there again, I want you guys to understand when we call and say you can't have the bus until 3:30 or 4, it's not because we're trying to be hard, it's just because we're trying to get the kids home and get y'all to where you want to go at the same time, and it's a juggling act some days. Yes, ma'am?
When is the training for the CDL?
May I chime in real quick?
Yes.
So I did want to put out there, it would behoove you to get the CDL, and it would also help the principal as well. So one of the things that I'm going to try to work towards this summer is working with my staff and offering that CDL, and I already contacted the trainer that they're going to come over to Bruner. So I'm going to work on getting that date. I'm sure he has other trainings, but if you want to inquire with me, I'll shoot you back an email when those dates will be, so we can try to have it at Bruner at some point.
I think there's one in Crestview High School, June 12th.
Okay, so we're going to try to have another one at the south end, is that right?
Now, what if you were certified, I was certified in the past in Leon County. That doesn't grandfather over. If I showed you that I'd went and completed it, would that?
It's in the last 12 months.
No, it sometimes.
If you have a license, the question was, he had a license in Leon County years ago. Now he lives in our county and works, but he hasn't driven. If you haven't driven in the last 12 months, then you have to go back through the training. That's the state law, not my law. We've had people come back and they've missed it by 2 days. It's just a state law. So, but if you've got a license from another county, that means you went through the same training that our drivers went through in this county, because it's all state mandated. So the same training is good for every county in this state, if you were to transfer in or out. Going back to the class that Mr. Massey was referring to, we have a new training class starting on June 12, 13, and 14. That's going to be in Transportation North, our Crestview office. 8 to 3 on the 12th and 13th, and 8 to 12 on the 14th. Those are the times. If you need more information, you can contact myself. You can contact our CDL trainer. His name is Bob Martin. His number is 833-6363. Or you can find him in our email address book, Bob Martin, Transportation. Glad for you to email him and get more information. We have flexibility when we do our training classes. If 10 of y'all call me and say, I want to get trained this summer, but I can't make it on the 12th, and I have enough, we'll set up another training. I'll make Bobby train all summer long if we have to, if it gets us the drivers and helps y'all. That's what his job is for. So we're flexible. Just because you can't be there on the 12th, don't give up. Call us and let us know I'm interested. Give me some time for another training. We'll be glad to do that and set one up. Okay? We help you any way we can. If you call and say, I want to come to the class, but I don't know about the 20 hours of driving, we'll be flexible with you. We may do it some on the weekends or some days after school or whatever. I mean, there's no set way that it has to be done, and we know that you guys are busy and you're teaching or coaching, and if we have to be flexible, we can. Some coaches have taken 3 or 4 months to get trained because they can only get there when they can get there to finish their training. Doesn't matter to us. We'll work with you anywhere we can. So I just want you all to know that, okay? For those of you that have a license already, the in-service dates this summer for you, June 3rd at Show River, 8 to 3 o'clock. Is that correct? All right. Appreciate you guys helping us with that. In-service.
South end of the county, or is that the only one?
In-service June the 4th will be in the south end of the county for coaches in the south end, or central. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care, you can go to either training, I'm not, it doesn't matter to us.
Where's the south end?
South end will be at the South Transportation Office, right there behind the Votex store.
Oh,
On Lewis Turner, yes.
What time is that?
That's 8 to 3 as well, on the 4th. That's typically set up for the South coaches or the Central coaches. But as I said, y'all can go to either training, it doesn't matter to us. Because you've got to get your 8 hours, so we can, yes, sir.
what if I already have, it's like personal, but what if I already have like a professional development set on either of those 2 dates for my teaching class? Is there any future in-service dates?
What you need to do is contact Mr. Parks, email him, tell him your dilemma, and then see if he's gonna have a makeup. I've got a quick answer for you right now. That's the new CDL class we're doing on the 12th, 13th, and 14th. You could actually attend one of those days and get your 8 hours in. So, if you can't go the 3rd and 4th, you can go on the 12th or the 13th and get 8 hours in that way, back to the same CDL state. Any other questions for me about anything? How many of you have your license out there? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
What you got?
We appreciate the campus buses. It's helped us out a bunch. Thank you.
And that's something that we've done for mention them at Soul River, and we've done at several schools. Davidson now has one, Destin has one, Brenner has one, Pryor has one. Schools that have multiple coaches that drive, you know, we can work out to get you a bus parked at your school, so you can have a bus there on campus. And we'll work it out to where you just get the fuel and stuff and charge right back to your school. So, we're just flexible, and that's the main thing I want to make sure you guys understand when it comes to training or anything else. We want to help y'all because it helps us as well. Okay? Thank you.
So back on the bus thing real quick is, you know, whenever we do scheduling, we have these scheduling meetings now where coaches are all coming together. We're going to be doing one for the fall. We'll do another one for winter sports. And coaches are getting at a table and they're making their schedule out. And the district's not dictating what time you play. If you want to play a baseball game at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, you can. If you want to play that baseball game at 7 o'clock, you can. I'm not going to tell you what time you have to play, but what does dictate the time you play is transportation. If you can't get a bus until 3:30, you can't play at 4 anywhere. So I get calls every week of people who are mad, and I listen to you, and you can keep calling, I'm okay with it. But they're mad that they scheduled a game and you said you're going to be here at 4 o'clock and now it's 4:15 and you're not here and you're 30 minutes late every day. Well, my thing is, if you know you're going to be 30 minutes late, why did you schedule that time? I can tell you right now, if I had to get to Destin, I'll say, look, it's going to take me 20 minutes, 25 minutes from here, or 30. I can't be there before a certain time. So if I'm at Davidson and I need to be at Ruckle, and I can't get a bus till 3:30, I can't play you till 4:30. Why you put 4 on the schedule, I don't know. But I'm not going to go dictate it, because what if you drive the bus? Then you can play at any time. How do I know how you're getting there? But if you're relying on a district driver, 3:30 is the time, routes are getting over, they'll get you a driver, but the routes come first. So when you're scheduling your games, schedule them based on the time that you can get there. You just have to do, it's 30 or 45 minutes every trip. All right? So just make sure you put that on the schedule.
Okay, I'm a bus driver, so I don't have this issue. However, anybody coming up to Crestview, they can't get a bus till 3:30, and we're doing tennis. There's no lights on the court. We had 2 situations where we barely were able to even, we hardly got any matches on because it was getting dark, and then the kids couldn't see, and we had 2 situations like that this year. Is there any answer for that?
So there was 2 weeks where we were playing matches when it was not daylight savings time, and then when it came daylight savings time, did you have a problem?
Yes.
Still?
Yes.
Yes.
So what time were you starting tennis matches?
If we're supposed to start at 4, but they can't get a bus till 3:30.
So you're not starting till 4:30?
Well, the issue is, I don't know if you know the traffic coming up to Crestview. It takes them about an hour and a half.
Yeah. So right now, without, making up a bunch of money, putting lights on every tennis, which we can't do right now. But what I would say going forward is if you know of a trip that's going to take longer, like if Bruner's going to Davidson and it's not daylight savings time, I would move that to later in the year so that way the clocks can change and you may get an extra hour in. Just do the best we can. But yeah, I can't do anything about lights on the tennis court. You got a question, Ray?
Yeah. Jay, the rule about when we have to go to Walton County to play schools, we gotta get a bus with seatbelt, we already have our own bus. Whose rule is that?
It's our rule. It's for safety.
For what?
For safety.
I know we don't, I'm a prior, we drive to Davidson's, not a whole lot of difference than going to Freeport or these other schools we gotta go to now. And I thought back in the day, seatbelts were not needed on buses because the seats were high on little extra stuff they have. I mean, it's not that much further.
That's true, Rex, but back in 2008, we had a school bus roll over on the interstate. And the only reason those kids didn't get seriously hurt is because they had their seatbelts on. Now, I'm not naive enough to know that you're going to make your kids wear their seatbelts because you probably don't. You should, but you probably don't. To answer your question, it's for safety reasons. And there's no way we're going to get around that, and we're not going to change the rule. Because even if your kids, you're not going to make them as the coach wear them, I'm going to provide you with a bus that have them on there so they can wear them if they want.
So that's like our district rule,
Yes.
transportation rule.
Absolutely, yes.
Along that same vein, why do we not need seatbelts to go to Baker, which is a longer drive than if I'm going down 98?
Well, I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying if you do go out of county, it's typically a longer trip, and we want you to have that. You can obviously request a bus with seatbelts if you like. That's absolutely your prerogative. And if you don't have one at your school that has seatbelts because we've left one there, then call us and we'll get you. As you as a coach have the right to do that, absolutely.
I'm not sure that Jay's here to speak on this, but I think that the district has always viewed travel as in county or out of county. And I think that the reason for that is when you're in county, if a bus breaks down or something was happened, he's going to get something to you. But if you go counties away, then, we have reciprocals with other counties, but we've always treated out of county travel differently than in county. But other than that, I get the safety piece.
Back to address your question, Rex. I understand that y'all probably don't make your kids wear the seat belts, but you may have 1 or 2 kids that actually get on there and put them on. Because they just, and I want them to be available if they want to. Now, like I said, if you're going to Baker and your bus that we've given you, I know does not have seat belts because the ones we've given to the schools are older model buses. And all of our buses from 2000 and older don't have seat belts. The year 2000 and newer is when they started putting them on standard when we bought them. So if you want seat belts on your bus, please let us know. We'll make sure that you get one. But that's not something that we're going to change just because nobody wears them. That would be something that, that wouldn't be a good answer, in my opinion, if we were to have a wreck and the kids didn't have a seat belt and it was ruled that they got hurt because they weren't wearing a seat belt. Well, you weren't even on a bus that had a seat belt and you were going down Interstate 10 to wherever. It's just, it's not something that we're going to deviate from. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So back to the schedule, as we go through next school year, when we go to schedule meetings, just keep in mind that when you're having a discussion, it's okay to tell the other coach, no, I can't play at that time. I have to play you at this time. It's okay. and then play later. That way we wouldn't have discrepancies. I think it was worse in like track. There was a lot of track events where multiple teams were there. Everybody was waiting on one team, and then my phone would start ringing because the other team's 30 minutes out, and they're wanting to start without you. So if you can't participate, just say it, and we'll move the time. You're going to get a schedule. That's the reason that we're organized into this conference, is you're getting a schedule. It's up to y'all to negotiate the time.
That's where these other options come in.
And then you can always use any of your options for transportation. And then the last point I'll make on transportation is, like I was saying at the beginning, for most of you, it's your greatest expense. I don't know if y'all are paying out of your own budget for transportation or your principal pays it. I don't know, but if you're paying your own budget and you're traveling to 10 games or 8 games, it's probably your greatest expense, and it's probably in the thousands of dollars, especially if you're hiring a driver. So the fact that you know the rules and you've got some flexibility to get your bus driver's license and to get a bus placed at your school, it could take that expense out so that you can be more efficient in your sport and not be fundraising to pay just for transportation. So it's a great expense, and that's why I'm glad Jay comes and talks about transportation, because for those of you that are paying for it, I know why you got your license, because it's a big fundraiser for you. Okay? The next up is going to be Mr. Chapman. Mr. Chapman is our equity officer, and he talked last year and the year before to this same group, and you probably recognize him. And again, I'll reiterate that if you need some help with a situation where somebody has made some allegations against you, and maybe you're in a kind of a tight spot, he'll be called in. He does the investigation. He's there to help you. He works to try to help you. In some instances, though, as hard as he tries, because of the decision the coach has made, there may not be much help he can give. I don't know. I'll let him speak to that. But what Mr. Chapman does is he does investigations, and he handles equity and things of that nature.
Okay, I won't be for you too long this morning, but I just want to share with you a little bit who I am. I am the equity specialist for the school district. I do investigations, and as of a couple of weeks back, I do have a partner in crime now that can help do investigations. So if you see the other guy, Mr. Moore, he's an investigator as well for the school district. I'm not going to read this pamphlet completely, but some things I want to point out to you that I think you need to be aware of, basis and cases and so forth that I've seen a lot of in the last couple of years. This year we've done over about 60 investigations. That's 60 different individuals facing different situations and so forth that we get involved in. Right now I have about probably about 14 cases on my desk, and the other guy's got about 5 on his desk. So we stay pretty busy, and a lot comes back down to this pamphlet I'm holding in my hand today, the Code of Ethics and so forth. My background is law enforcement. I did about 12 years with the Sheriff's Office, and I served 9 years as a school resource officer. I went to the classroom as a teacher, EBD, middle school, for a couple of years, and so now I'm doing what I'm doing now for the last 5 years or so. So my background's a bit varied, but I've seen a lot, and honestly, to be very honest with you, based on what I've seen in the last couple of years where things have shifted, I go back to the old saying that I picked up that I really enjoy, is that you can't change the direction of the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And that's what this is telling us to do. We need to adjust our sails. You may be considered old school, this way I do things and so forth. I get that piece, but you have to adjust your sails. And adjusting your sails, I'm saying stick to where our policies and procedures and code of professional conduct says and so forth, you'll be in good shape. Most of my investigations has come back to this. And a lot can be summed up, I will mention a couple of them. Shall make reasonable effort to protect the student from conditions harmful to learning and or the student's mental and or physical health and or safety. That's probably about 60% of the cases that I go into go back to that one statement. And that goes back to coaches. I realize that coaches is so easy. And I played basketball back in the day when I was at Laurel Hill School and so forth, so I get it. Things have changed tremendously from those days, but it was not uncommon for things to come your direction to get your attention. I wouldn't advise that these days, because more than likely you're going to run across that one student, that one parent who's going to make a complaint, and once they complaint is levied against you. We all know we call DCF. If there's a situation involving a kid being hurt and so forth, if DCF takes the call, law enforcement will be notified, they take the call, you're going to be placed on more than likely on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. Once they complete their investigation, which I've had some that lasted with them from weeks to months. So that person's out on leave with pay. Once they finish their investigation, then I can do my internal investigation. And I'm going to pull this little pamphlet back out. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And one of the things I see common is reaching out and touching, that AT&T syndrome. Want to reach out and grab a kid, pull them into place. Special coach, you get up, you're in middle of practice, you want to get a kid in place, you grab them, get over here and so forth. I'm letting you know, eventually it's going to catch up with you. If a kid goes home and say, hey, when coach grabbed me today, they grabbed too hard, left a mark and so forth, it's been called in. And more than likely, with Oklahoma County DCF is going to take the case, just so you know. So those things to be careful of. Grabbing a kid, that's probably a lot of my cases. And here's the thing. I want you to keep in mind, it's really about perception. It's not about your intent. I count the cases that I've had with the individual who said, Mr. Chapman, I was only trying to get their attention. I was only. Bottom line is its impact. You grab a kid, parents complaining, they got a right to complain, okay? And so we have to be careful with that and make sure we just keep our hands to ourselves. Same thing with comments. Society has changed tremendously. And so we have to make sure that we don't do anything to intentionally expose the student to unnecessary embarrassment and disparagement. And it happens. Kids, and I'm letting you know now, here's my whole take on equity right now. Just treat everybody with dignity and respect. That's the bottom line. Treat them as if it was your child. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. my two boys may have a different side of dad. Okay? So keep in mind that you want to treat all students with dignity and respect, regardless of what you believe, your belief, and so forth. And I'll go into sexual orientation and different things of that nature. We treat all students with respect and dignity, regardless of my personal opinions, what I believe, what I feel. Treat them with dignity and respect. I've had a couple of those situations. Anything I'm sharing with you is because I see things, a pattern of things. And my job is to make sure that we all are aware of those situations and so forth, because I'm letting you know when there's an investigation, I go wherever the facts lead me. If the facts show me that, yes, you put your hands on a student, and yes, you did this, and yes, and so forth, it's been written up as such. A lot of you I know and so forth, and I respect you, but I will do my job based upon the facts that I do. I will protect the integrity of the investigation, what I'm saying. So keep in mind that, watch how you say things that can embarrass kids and so forth. Kids, it's a whole different breed of kids, I believe, in my opinion. Things that I would say with my own two boys and so forth, I cannot dare say with other students and so forth. And so keep that in mind, that these are not your personal children. These are not your kids. These are students, and they have parents. And for these parents, these kids are very important to them. They love them. No matter how bad they may have misbehaved, they're somebody's baby. And that's the parents that I get phone calls from is, Mr. Chapman, I know my kid does this, this, and this. However, your teacher is a professional. I can't argue the point. So what I'm simply saying to you is simply this. I cannot tell you how many times I've had this same conversation. I've had this conversation with the 60-plus people that I've investigated, and they just did not get it. So what I'm saying is you have to be extra careful in how you interact with students and even adults. Sly comments and so forth. I'm leaving here today to go to a situation where somebody has sent an inappropriate text to another employee. It was very inappropriate and so forth. So what I'm saying, just be careful that things, you just don't take things too casual these days. Nobody's going to protect your job better than you. And it doesn't matter how eloquent you can speak and how you can defend yourself and so forth. The bottom line, did you do this action? And if so, it's been written up as such. And if there's findings in my report and so forth, the district can also take action. Because we hold certificates, professional practices can also come and do their investigation. So there may be 4 investigations from one situation. It could be from the Sheriff's Office, DCF, professional practice, and our internal investigation for one situation. So what I'm saying, protect yourself. Stay away from situations that could be perceived as, you did something inappropriate and so forth. Now, I realize that anybody can make a complaint. I get allegations all the time come across my desk. And I do investigate, and some of them are unfounded. So I understand that. I got some that just, anybody can file an allegation or file a complaint. Anyone can do that. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. But what I'm saying, let's not give anyone ammunition to do that. Let's try to do what we can do to protect ourselves. So keep that in mind. Shall not harass or discriminate against anyone on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, age, national, ethnic origin, political beliefs, marital status, handicap condition, sexual orientation, or social and family backgrounds, and so forth. Discrimination is not going to be tolerated by this county school district. And that goes not just for our interaction with students, but also with employees and so forth. I'm just letting you know, things that I endured and which I turned out okay, I believe, with my coaches and so forth, I think I'm okay. Matter of fact, I think it may be better in some instances. So what I'm saying is that mindset of things have changed so much. If I go and place my hand on Mr. Humphrey's shoulder without his permission, he could technically say, hey, Mr. Chapman just battered me. As we call it in law enforcement, he battered when you have to make contact. He battered, simple battery. So what I'm saying is, although that kid may be okay for 29 days of practice, that particular day he's upset and she's upset. Goes home and tell mom. So we're going to start the whole process, start rolling. Once the investigation, once the training leaves the station, I can't stop it. I will do all I can to make sure that, if you're innocent and so forth, to be written as such. I'm going to follow the facts. Some of you I don't know. And ones I do know, I'm still following the facts. Because that's the integrity of the investigation. So what I'm saying to all of us in this room is that, again, you can't adjust the times that we live in and so forth. I get that. But we can adjust ourselves and just how we respond, how we react to our students. And some students are just bad. They know how to push their buttons. They know how to push it to the limit to get a reaction out of you. I have parents that call me and try to get a reaction out of me as well.
The parents are bad too.
I understand that. And they'll push it to the limit. So we got this it's all about how we respond. We're in control of them. They only own 50% of conversation. Every conversation I have, they own 50% of it. I don't have to let go where they're trying to take me. I can agree to disagree. I appreciate that. I remember one interview I was doing and so forth, investigation, and the lady just got so flustered with me. She said, I hate your tie. Okay, thank you. So, did you do this? Okay, just so I'm saying, it go all kind of things at you and so forth, but it all comes back to the facts. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, I've learned to have thick skin. Okay, I've learned to deal with attorneys and all these individuals, and so my job is then to say that, yes, we told them about code of ethics, yes, we told them about professional practice and so forth, and I am here to help you, just like Mr. Humphrey said. I am not the bad guy. No one wants to see me on campus, but I am not the bad guy. I'm here to help you. And if you have a question, if you say, I'm wondering if I should call me, I welcome a 15-minute conversation with you than a 2-week-long investigation with me. Okay? And I'll say 2 weeks, that's being very, it won't be that brief, I promise you. Okay? I have 30 days to investigate, 15 days to generate a report, 45 days to do an investigation, and if more time needed, I have to take a second when I get 15 plus cases. And it's stressful. That's what I don't want to see any of our teachers go through again, the stress of going through an investigation. It's going to affect your family, It's going to affect your kids. It's going to affect everybody around you. It's going to affect your school, your students. And it's a process that we just going to have to follow. So I want you to keep in mind is that, and I hope that there's not a coach in this room that's sitting here today that he just taught me. It's not going to happen to me. Because those are the ones, unfortunately, that eventually it happens. Now, like I said, you can have a false allegation, and evidence won't take me to finding a conclusion of substantiated. But what I'm saying is, don't be that one that keep taking risks. I've had parents that called me and said, Mr. Chapman, I'm letting you know I'm not filing a complaint, but this coach is using profanity. Over and over. Been going for years. So I've called them. Said, hey, I don't know if there's any truth to it, but coach, it's what I'm hearing. And so hopefully they can curb it. Because you get the right parent, the right situation. And there's kids around say, oh yes, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, yeah, they said it. Well, you didn't exercise the best judgment. These are kids. You're not being professional. So what I'm saying to all of us in this room is that I don't see anybody go through what I've seen teachers go through in the last couple of years, because I've been up close to it. And I understand the stress, and I understand all the issues that's going on with those individuals and so forth. So that's what I'm coming from. Not my job. I don't do a job out of fear. I want people to be afraid of me, and that's not. I want to help you to be successful, have a long career. I want you to be able to look at me and say, you know, if I need him, I can call him and he'll help us and so forth. Just keep in mind there's an investigation. I'm going to follow the facts. Where the facts lead and the evidence show me, that's where I'm going. So do your part. Protect yourself. Protect your certificate, your livelihood. That's what's at risk. Your livelihood sometimes. When they go to professional practice, they determine, are we going to put them on probation? Are we going to have them go to classes? Are we going to suspend them? Are we going to revoke the license? So be careful that you don't allow a student, empower a child or student, someone to take your livelihood that you went to school for all these years and you've earned you're earning your living. It's not worth it. I'd rather walk away because there's a power of the pen than to give a student the power to take my career away. So those are the things that I want to leave with you today. Is there any questions for me? Any questions? No questions? All right. One last thing, shall take reasonable precautions to distinguish between personal views and those of the educational institution, organization. That goes back to your own personal beliefs and so forth. I get that piece. Don't let your personal views and so forth impact your conversation and everything until it's opposite of where the school district is at. These are individuals. These are students have a right to diverse points of view, whether I agree with them or not. Okay? Any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Chapman, sometimes he's like the Grim Reaper when he calls. I'm like, God, should I answer? But a lot of times it's good news, and like you said, a lot of times he's out working to help coaches. And to his point, there are investigations every year, every month, and there'll be some next month and the next month. Our goal would be to go a school year and not have any coach under any investigation for anything. And that would be our goal. That's what we work towards. But as many of you know, there's people out there that sometimes they're not happy with you, especially with their kids not playing or usually right around tryout time. And those people are the ones reporting you. We don't go out through the district looking for things. We're not going to go following you around, making sure we trust you to do the job that you're hired to do. But when somebody brings forth an allegation, that's when it gets looked into.
But those parents that are bring, they'll follow you around.
I understand that no one from the district has to follow you around and report you because they're doing it.
Yeah.
So, and then once one of them's mad, and I've seen that even in the last few weeks, they're relentless with their requests. And once you're in an investigation, it is tough, but he is the guy that would help you. And as long as you're in compliance, and that's what this meeting's about, is just be in compliance with the policies, because you're governed by school board policy, and as long as you follow school board policy, you're good there. You're governed by the MSAC policy, and as long as you follow that, you're good there. But the more severe ones, the one he mentioned, is this ethical thing. If it addresses your teaching certificate, you can do something in coaching, and they take away your teaching certificate. So it seems like it's a harsh pill to swallow, but that's the reality of it, and that's why we're having the training to make you aware of the behaviors you should be exhibiting. So y'all look through that pamphlet, and then if you've got questions, surely address them to Mr. Chapman. The next thing on here is funding, and I didn't see the handout in there that I wanted it. Yeah, so it is in there. Okay. So for whenever you're managing an athletic program, every year, even through the summer, all of our coaches put in 12 months worth of work, and if you added up how much money they're getting paid, it's about 3 cents a day. And you do it for the passion, you do it because you enjoy it. I've been there. They wouldn't have to pay me to coach the years I coached. I think I gave all that money away anyway to the kids that were playing. So none of us do it for monetary gain, but there is a component that your program has to have money to survive. You've got to buy uniforms, you've got to buy equipment, you've got to pay for travel. And in the summer, if you're going to do anything in the summer, which a lot of us do stuff in the summer, that costs money. Even if you're going to do just summer games, you're wanting referees out there. The referees are going to charge you an expense. Travel's still an expense even in the summer. So for every one of your programs, it would not shock me if you told me how much you needed to run your program for 12 months. I get it. I know it's a lot of money, some more than others. What I would suggest is whenever you're having your parent meetings, and I would call those parent meetings before tryouts, before they get mad, then be transparent and let everybody know, hey, this is what it costs to run my program. This is our transportation cost in the regular season. Here's our transportation cost in the summer. I would go down and budget everything. I paid for socks for everybody. Socks were $82 this year, or whatever your expenses are. And then I would share with them the money you take in. There's no secret that nobody in here's accounts just rolling in money. We all budget year to year, I would assume. Unless somebody in here is hiding a bunch of money. All the athletic programs I've seen is year to year. You're trying to survive on what you take in, and you're trying to pay out and stay within the budget. And every couple of years, uniforms are no good, and you've got to get new uniforms. Or if you have to pay for anything like gym floor or fertilizer to a field, I don't know what y'all are doing at each school, but sometimes there's an extra expense. So to me, and I didn't do this years ago, but I wish I would have on the front end, is that let everybody know, be clear with your parent group what it costs to run your program year round, because that's what you're doing. And then let them know that in the summer it has an additional cost, and that's part of the year-round cost. Once you inform parents of the cost, I would then say, look, this is what we're doing fundraising-wise, these opportunities. So if you're not taking in as much and you're putting out more than you're taking in, you're obviously in the hole. Well, you can't be in the hole, so I know that some sports programs, most of our sports programs, a lot of our programs have a fee associated with making the team or being on the team. You can't charge a fee for trying out for the team, but once you make the team, you can associate a fee to that. So let's say that I'm a baseball coach, and to me the fee would be $50 a player. I would keep 50 kids just to get the $50. It's okay to do $50 a player and let them know in a letter saying, look, I explained our expenses, And so now that your son's made the team, there's a fee associated with this position, but you have to give them opportunities to fundraise to not pay the fee. You can't give them a letter that says, you just made the baseball team, now write me a check for $200 and make it payable to, they don't need to get that letter, and we've got some schools giving that letter out. So soften the letter up and make it say, there's a fee associated with our program, and let them know you went over the fees and the money in the financial report the last parent meeting. Invite all your parents to that and say, we addressed this last parent meeting, and so now we're going to address paying the fee. Some parents do not want to fundraise. I've seen parents that say, well, my kid's not selling cookie dough, I'll just write a check. Well, I don't have a problem with that. They can write their check for the fee associated with their child making the team, but other parents can't write the check, and you've got to give them an opportunity to fundraise. You can't do one or you've got to give them an opportunity. And set up some fundraising dates. Now, if somebody does not attend, and you've given them 5 opportunities and laid them out, and they miss all of them, well, at the end, they owe you that money is the way I look at it. So, and we've had situations where some people didn't collect the fee, and that's going to be a program decision that you make on how you handle that. We're not going to hold them back a grade level or keep their diploma, but you can turn them in on the debt list, and then whether you keep them next year or not is your call. But most of the people that are getting fees are collected. So if you're struggling with should you charge a fee, you want to talk about it, you can call me, I'll help you. But to me, people should be paid. Your program needs money. Otherwise, it can't survive. If you don't get nice things, and sometimes if you don't have like nice little bags to give them, or give them shirts that match, then they're offended and they'll go to another school to play. So, they expect your program to have certain things. And I know this summer at some schools, if your program doesn't run this summer, your parents are going to wonder why. They're expecting you to run a summer program in some cases. And there's an expense associated with that. So don't feel guilty about that. I know that I've met with some coaches that this has been brought up, and it looked as if the coach was not trying, like the coach felt like maybe they shouldn't say that they needed money. I'm saying, yes, you need money. Admit it. And then in the summer costs, whenever you're filling out your fundraiser form, whenever you do a fundraiser form, you're supposed to list everything that these funds are supposed to go to. I list everything. Just standard, I'd say uniforms, fertilizer. Even I'm the basketball coach, I put fertilizer. Just start with those stuff, and then always include the phrase summer work. Because in the summer, if you work a couple of hours, you should be able to pay yourself if you have the funding. Some of the parents, they'll be like, what do you mean we've got to pay you? They're not working for nothing. The district's not paying you. And I think they think that. They think that y'all are all just getting rich off the district. The district doesn't pay nothing for the summer. So when you run your summer program, just make sure you include summer work in your fundraising request form. That way, if they ever come back, we'll say, look, they documented it and it was approved that they raised this money. They can spend it how they want to spend it. But if you put on a fundraiser form that we're only fundraising just to resurface the track, then that money can only go to resurface the track. That's why list everything on your form. So fundraising, handling your finances, that's your job. Just go ahead and admit you need money, and make sure that you share that with your parent group. Make sure everybody in here does fundraising opportunities. Keep that up. Keep going with those fundraising opportunities. But if you personally can't go out and sell enough cookie dough to support your program, your students have to. It's their program. If those students don't participate, then we're gonna lean it on the parents, and it's their program. So, and I'm good with that. Just make sure that you give them an opportunity to fundraise, so that we're not asking a parent to write a check for $100, because that's a lot to write a check. It's an unexpected expense. Okay. Has anybody got a question on fundraising, finances? Everybody's good? Again, if you think of a question later on, you can always shoot me an email, and I'll try to get you the answer as fast as possible. And Mr. Horton just texted. Right. So Mr. Horton was going to come and discuss controlled open enrollment, but he just texted, he's running a couple of minutes late. So we may have to move him after lunch, but I want to address a couple of things real quick, and then we'll break here a little bit earlier and see if lunch is ready. And that is the summer program. Is, you know that you're not required to run a summer program. Does everybody understand? It's not a requirement that you have a program where you're running your athletics in June and July. And then when the regular season starts, you're only required to run your program during the season. But if you wanted to do any preseason conditioning, it's allowed. So I'm sure y'all made your mind up whether you're doing summer or not, so I'm going to leave that out, because summer programs will be starting soon. But when August gets here, you're hired to do your sport during your season, and our season has a start date and an end date. That's when you're required to work your sport. If you wanted to work your sport a couple of weeks or days ahead of time to condition your kids, you're allowed to do what's called preseason conditioning. Now, if those athletes are playing another sport, they're not allowed to start with your preseason and conditioning. We do not want them to have to choose. So if a kid's playing football and you're going to do basketball, you can't say, I'm going to do preseason conditioning 5 weeks early, and I'm going to tell those football players they got to choose. We're not doing that. They're going to get to play the sport that's in session. But for the kids who are not playing football, if you wanted to bring them in early, you are allowed to do preseason conditioning. And preseason conditioning is just that. It's running, it's exercising, and it's lifting weights. But it's not you coaching the skills of the sport, right? Because that's practicing out of season. Preseason conditioning is accepted by FHSAA because preseason conditioners believe that you're giving your kid a better chance of playing your sport, you're making him healthier, and you're making it safer for him to try out. The most riskiest time, if riskiest time is a word, the most riskiest time for a student to suffer an injury for a sudden cardiac arrest or a heat-related illness or a concussion is during tryouts. Because oftentimes that kid has come to you and he hasn't done anything for 6 months but play a video game. His body's not acclimated. He's not sweating. He's not used to feeling kind of bounced around a little bit. And so when he comes to you at first, his body's not used to the heat or he's not used to the activity. That's when he's most susceptible to those types of severe injuries. So that's why preseason conditioning is accepted, is they would like you to get him out off the couch early and get him working out a little bit and getting his body used to it. So preseason conditioning is allowed. There's no time limit, like it's not 2 weeks before the season or 4 weeks. It's whatever you can tolerate. But we don't want a kid to have to choose from one sport to another, okay, for preseason conditioning. Does anybody got a question on preseason?
Chime in on that real quick, and I'm going to steal Brian's thunder a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the rule of 3, basically for preconditioning, most of your practices involve a coach, a ball, and players. If you're preconditioning, you can have any 2 of those 3. If you have 3, it's a practice or a game. Did I say that correctly? So it's a good rule of thumb to take home.
Both.
At least sports that have a ball.
I had a question. So my question was like, so, and when I played college baseball, we could have balls and players and no coaches. But as a middle school coach, I can't have my kids be out there with a bunch of baseballs without me.
As we get hurt.
But the supervision happens.
Hey, but I will share that a couple years ago, we shared that same, the three things that you don't want to put two together. And then the next year at a school, we had a softball coach, they were tossing grapefruits because it wasn't a ball. So just realize that the spirit of it is we're not wanting to coach the sport. You're not supposed to coach the skill, but you're supposed to do conditioning. There's a difference. And I know coaches are always thinking, well, if I can get away with an extra practice, maybe we'll get ahead. And so you can't outthink a coach. They're going to go on their way, and if there's a way they can get extra in, they're going to get extra. And I get it. But the spirit of the rule is you're not supposed to be practicing your sport, but you are supposed to help the child become better conditioned so when it starts, they're least likely to have a concussion, heat-related illness, or sudden cardiac arrest, an event that would be very dangerous.
And I'm opening a can of worms, but we all know that money, as far as travel balls, if you got a team, but if you get it, when I'm in the northern part, I might have 2 or 3 playing travel ball. The other ones, they'll play travel ball most of the year, and it's hard to compete with those. So you take a school that doesn't have a lot of travel ball players, and even running in, because I coach high school, but I couldn't make it tomorrow, and just trying to keep those good players that you've developed at a local level, it's tough. And I'm just wondering when they may open it up, because I mean it's not a secret that they're playing year round. They're just playing travel, and that's where the colleges are seeing them in travel ball, not necessarily seeing them in high school ball.
We're never going to be able to do anything about travel ball, and I'm not saying that it's something needs to be done about it. It serves a purpose, and as parents love travel ball. I think if I was growing up and had younger kids, I'd have been travel ball. So I'm not knocking travel ball, so if there's any travel ball coaches, I'm not. But what I'm saying, they have a place that they're serving, and then the school district has what we're serving. It's not the same. The travel ball coach is not as accountable for what you're accountable for the same reasons and stuff that we've discussed. So we're only offering school-related, and we're following our school policies and rules. Travel ball does not have those, usually, like AAU and things like that. They're just wide open and they're always playing. I would say that for you, just focus on what we're doing. And like for baseball, this pitch count thing, you're keeping a kid's pitch count. He throws 70 pitches on Tuesday with you, but on Wednesday he goes and plays travel ball and throws 90 and comes back to you Thursday, and you're supposed to give him a certain number of days of rest. We can't control what happens away from us. Travel ball is not going to go away. It's always going to be there. And I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it is what it is. For us, preseason conditioning, you can't have them play year-round. That's not possible. You can't have them play or practice outside the date of your start and end season because that's illegal. It violates an MSAC rule and it violates FHSAA policy. But you are allowed to do preseason, even though travel ball may be allowed. We can't control that. So, does anybody have a question on the preseason? Because I know that some of y'all are doing preseason because I get calls. And they'll call me in December and say, hey, I just drove by such school and they're out there throwing baseballs. And it's December. So someone's reporting you. So, and it's usually another coach in the room. So is everybody clear on what preseason is? I'm for it because I get the whole, every coach is looking at it like somebody's cheating, but the purpose of it is, it's for the safety of the athlete. It gets them off the couch. If I thought they were out, all coming out there already prepared, I wouldn't worry about pre-season conditioning, but I think it's a good thing. Any questions on the, okay. All right. I'm gonna hit a little bit on what Title IX is, and then we'll see if they get the lunch ready. We'll leave lunch here in about 15 minutes for sure. So let me address this Title IX issue for a couple minutes, and then Mr. McGinnis, our school board attorney, is going to come in and discuss. Years back in early 2000, this district had an audit from the Office of Civil Rights on Title IX, and he'll share that with you. But just for clarification for everybody in here, Title IX is obviously a federal law. It comes from what's called the Office of Civil Rights. The Office of Civil Rights is stationed in Atlanta, that's our Southeast Division. So they oversee what Title IX is. In athletics, we all kind of refer that as to that's the gender boy-girl thing. Everything the boys have, the girls have, and we're supposed to make it comparable. The form that we turn in every year to Title IX to see if your school's in compliance is it's a formula, and the formula is not you got to have the same number of girls and boys. And I've heard statements where, well, I'm going to cut all those boys because they mess my Title IX numbers up. And cutting boys doesn't help your Title IX numbers. And so every year we've kind of gone over this, and then even this year we had paperwork turned in that spoke to the effect that I think that coach thinks cutting boys helps his numbers. And it does not. Your Title IX numbers are based on two percentages. This is some math right here. All right. There's a percentage of males in your school, the entire school, and there's a percentage of females in the entire school. I'm just going to make up two percentages. Let's say it's 60% males in your school and 40% females. So there's 60% boys and 40% girls. So take that same percent, and that has to be the same percent as your athletic participation, or the females have to be greater than 40. So at your school, if it's 60-40 and girls are the 40% of your athletes have to be girls. So when you're tallying up stuff, you just got to make sure you have equal representation for your athletic interest as you do as your school enrollment. So if you've got 40% of girls in your school, you only have to have 40% of your athletes girls. So that's the only number that matters. The number of boys is insignificant, other than it helps you get the girls' percent. So we had schools in here that had to have 40% girls, and some of them had to get 47%, some had to get 49%. If you're not at least at that percent, you're out of compliance by that percent. But even if you're out of compliance by that number, every school here created a portfolio. I don't know if you were involved in the creation of that portfolio, but it's a packet that has pictures of girls' sports, schedules, and things like that are just stuck in a folder. That portfolio puts your school in compliance, because you have a choice. You either got to be in compliance by the number, that 40%, or you have to create a portfolio. Every school in here created a portfolio, but some of y'all were in compliance by the number. So if someone was to ever ask you, is your school in compliance with Title IX, you'd say yes. That every school in here has been in compliance with Title IX. The percent numbers at some schools are a little bit off, and it's because we do offer more larger sports with boys, because football has a lot of boys come out, because they field 11 kids on a team on one side of the ball and 11 on the other. But I don't know if everybody's kept up with it, but if we add flag football, there's been a big push for flag football. That's just going to tip everybody over, and the girls will be in compliance by the numbers. Once we get flag football off the ground, it looks like that's the direction the MSAC's moving. And so when that happens, everyone's percent of girls will go up. And so your Title IX percent will look a lot better.